All right, today we're back talking about Claressa Shields because apparently the drama refuses to take a day off, aka Papooses' alleged mistress, aka Pap's entanglement, aka Pap's pick-me, aka the side chick, and as Chris Cyborg might put it, apparently duck season is still open. Claressa Shields is once again going off with those trigger fingers on Twitter/X, pushing back against the claim that she was paid only $500,000, staying noticeably quiet about the suspension, and getting upset because somebody made a messy post suggesting the check cleared and Pap finally got what he was after. The payment was reportedly received in Aruba for that Claressa tattoo that's so tiny you practically need a magnifying glass to find it, while the tattoo connected to Remy is covering the entire lower arm with colors, Roman numerals, and Remy's name, so you can barely compare the two unless you're lifting up the shirt to get a better look at that upper shoulder and upper arm area where the Claressa tattoo sits. But before we dive deeper into all of that, I need y'all to pay close attention because something bigger may already be unfolding behind the scenes. I need y'all to use some discernment here because it looks like there is already an effort underway to silence people who are speaking critically about Claressa Shields. I don't know if y'all have noticed it yet, but I certainly have because I'm seeing things I honestly have never seen before, with publications, media personalities, celebrities, and all kinds of people suddenly coming out of nowhere to defend Claressa Shields while repeating almost identical talking points. They're saying she's the one we should be celebrating, that people shouldn't criticize a black woman, that the fight was supposedly sold out, and that Claressa made money from the event, and apparently that's going to become today's newest talking point once we get into exactly what Claressa herself had to say. And trust me, this is probably about to become a whole production because they may even start calling on people who attended the event, whether that's Portia, Ursa, Floyd Mayweather, Shakur Stevenson, or Terrence Crawford, to publicly come forward and give their defense. Oh yeah, I can already see where this is going, so don't act surprised when it happens. And there's going to be a pivot, too, because certain outlets will probably start accusing anybody who criticizes Claressa Shields of only chasing clicks, views, attention, or money, all in an attempt to convince you that the criticism itself is fake news, fake content, or nothing more than clickbait. I'm just trying to make y'all aware of what could be happening, because while one side is busy elevating Claressa, they're simultaneously dragging Remy's name through the mud. They are working overtime trying to make the Claressa and Pap situation look normal, and honestly, it's getting ridiculous when the man involved still apparently doesn't want a divorce from his wife. Make that make sense. So I want y'all watching closely because they're going to start pushing the narrative that Remy cheated first, that Remy somehow wronged Pap, and that therefore he has every right to do whatever he wants with Claressa. They're going to tell you there's nothing wrong with Claressa and that everything being said about her is simply random hate and a coordinated hate train. Y'all already saw the preview in that Essence article I talked about the other day, and if you were paying attention, you could see exactly what kind of narrative they were trying to establish. They really seem to believe that y'all aren't paying attention, that y'all can't connect the dots, and that you're incapable of thinking critically about what's happening right in front of you. But here's the funny part. I'm just one small YouTuber, one person with a relatively small platform. So if this criticism is supposedly so insignificant, would there be any reason to overwhelm it with celebrities who have millions of followers, major publications with millions of followers, bigger channels, and everyone else suddenly repeating the idea that people are being too hard on Claressa? They're going to say critics are only talking negatively about Claressa for clicks, views, money, and attention, while completely ignoring the possibility that people are simply reacting to what they're actually seeing and hearing. And the bigger objective seems to be drowning out the backlash while aggressively positioning Claressa as the face of women's boxing. But if everything is really as amazing and flawless as they want you to believe, why is there constantly another controversy, another backlash, and another wave of criticism surrounding her?
Why are people who barely ever discussed Claressa suddenly producing content about her, and why are celebrities suddenly being brought in to comment on a fight they attended days earlier? The fight happened Saturday, and today's Wednesday. So why didn't these people have those reactions Saturday night when the fight actually happened? And why are we suddenly getting all these responses days later? And that's because Claressa and Pop apparently cannot handle the backlash or accept the fact that the celebration they expected hasn't materialized the way they want it. Now they're trying to drown out the people who are simply calling the situation the way they see it. So I'm telling y'all to stay aware and keep supporting the people who remain consistent instead of suddenly switching sides and glazing Claressa while pretending the bigger issues don't exist. We're talking about someone who has publicly been involved with a married man for years, while critics accuse her of disrespecting his wife, Remy, and enabling behavior that allegedly involves the married man creating problems with his youngest child and financially undermining efforts connected to his wife. And none of this looks any less complicated when you remember that her bestie and alleged brother figure is Fat Joe, someone who can potentially reach some extremely powerful people in entertainment, including Jay-Z, who has faced long-running public allegations and criticism surrounding industry blackballing. You remember how quickly the public conversation around Colin Kaepernick changed after Jay-Z went from publicly supporting him to becoming an NFL entertainment strategist involved with Super Bowl-related programming? And suddenly the messaging shifted toward taking actionable steps rather than continuing the kneeling protests. So what happened to all the media coverage and constant attention around Colin Kaepernick after that? Do y'all see what I'm saying? If people want to play these games, attempt to silence critics, discredit people, and manipulate the conversation, then let's see exactly what Black Hollywood decides to do next. So that's my piece, because honestly, I had to get that off my chest before moving forward. Now let's get into what Claressa actually said on Twitter/X, because this entire thing is a complete mess. Jake Paul has his biggest female fighter, Amanda Serrano, fighting in what Claressa apparently considers a tiny venue, yet they're still over there talking about Claressa Shields, and she posted about Amanda's next fight with laughing emojis and a pointing down emoji, while basically mocking the situation. Claressa is the supposed quote, right? Then she posted a screenshot showing where Amanda Serrano is scheduled to fight next, and Claressa responded LOL on TikTok with 3 laughing emojis followed by effing clowns with a clown emoji. Another post said, "She's overrated, but it's not her fault. Women's boxing is borderline trash," before adding that nobody should get too excited because Claressa stopped an almost 50-year-old woman who was forced to turn professional, and then questioning in what universe Claressa versus Lauren Price would qualify as a mega fight, with several question marks. Claressa fired back by saying, "I ain't overrated, it's y'all some haters." The next tweet asked, "Why won't y'all fight each other?" apparently referring to Caroline Dubois, because if both fighters are willing to face Alicia, the argument was that there should also be a way for them to fight one another. Claressa responded, "Dumbass, I'm 160 now. Caroline is 135, 5 pounds bigger than scary-ass Baumgardner." Then Claressa responded to a Fight Post tweet discussing something Michaela Mayer had said, where Mayer basically stated that fighting Claressa would be fun, beating her would be even more fun, and although it might not happen until next year, a matchup between Mayer and Claressa Shields could potentially become the biggest fight in women's boxing in 2027. Claressa responds, "Cap," with a hat emoji, directly addressing Michaela Mayer and telling her she'd better worry about not losing to Chantel Cameron in a few weeks, adding a shrug emoji and warning her to stop digging herself into an even deeper hole. Then, in a quoted post discussing the alleged idea that Amanda Serrano, Alicia Baumgardner, and Remy Ma could potentially be teaming up against Claressa, somebody jumped in with a serious question and argued that Claressa has more accomplishments, has sold more, has fought in bigger crowds without Jake Paul, has competed in bigger venues without Katie Taylor, has a larger following and supposedly more skills, asking why she would even be jealous of those two women. Claressa answered that they were delusional and said she simply doesn't care about them. Apparently, Claressa is also considering getting into streaming, and honestly, I thought that was already happening because she has repeatedly been asking Adrian and Dean for recommendations on a videographer and other production help. Then she asked her followers directly, "Should I get into streaming?" Someone encouraged her to do it, saying that, as Claressa has described her own life, it's basically a movie, so she should choose the times and places she wants to stream, show people what she wants them to see, and use the opportunity to create more value for herself and her brand while inspiring others, with the money eventually following. Claressa responded that she genuinely needs guidance. Next, somebody responded to a complex story questioning the numbers being discussed, saying the math was simple because 175 to 160 is a 15-pound difference, and accusing people of exaggerating the weight situation. Claressa fired back that she was 198 pounds when her training camp started, and explained that she doesn't walk around at 175 because that is the weight she fights at. Then, another post addressed the alleged amount Claressa Shields earned and the backlash surrounding her reaction, which we're about to get into, and the person used 4 laughing emojis while saying, "Poor Kaye Scott, the baddies girls made more than her and you." Claressa responded that she made millions and asked whether the person was on DOP. Another person pushed back by saying everybody makes more money than the officially disclosed figures, so that part wasn't surprising, but argued that it still didn't change the fact that Claressa potentially could have earned more overall by accepting Chris Cyborg's offer, and that she chose the safer route because she wanted the guaranteed victory. Claressa simply responded, "No, I wouldn't have." Then, Claressa became upset with Shadow League after they published an article claiming Pap was catching heat for revealing a tattoo of Claressa Shields' name, with fans speculating that the gesture had more to do with her reported $500,000 payday than genuine romance. Claressa responded by asking who was paying them to publish what she called stupid content. Then, Claressa posted a photo of herself inside the ring alongside a picture of her niece and nephew, while explaining that she had doctor appointments scheduled and that her injured knee and fractured finger need to heal before she can return to training. She said she left everything inside the ring, using a boxing glove emoji, and added that it was worth it with strength, boxing glove, laughing, and devil emojis. Then she addressed the money discussion directly, saying she understood what people were trying to do, but claimed she had made more than $1 million for every fight since Marshall, and that she literally has an $8 million deal. But there's an important distinction here, because the Georgia Athletic Commission disclosure represents the guaranteed base purse on record, which is the amount reportedly agreed to be received up front and publicly disclosed. And Claressa is now arguing that figure does not represent her complete compensation for the event. She says her earnings go beyond the guaranteed purse and include participation in the broader business of the event, including gate revenue, sponsorships, and other event-related revenue streams. But what sponsorships are we actually talking about, Claressa? Don't tell me the women's book, A Powerful Divorce. Or is the claim that Zeus Network provided you with another check or some additional cut? And if so, what exactly is their business model here? Claressa also said that out of respect for her opponent's privacy, she would not discuss that fighter's compensation or the terms of their agreement. But that sounds very similar to what you said about Franchon Cruz, who publicly claimed this was the least money she had ever made in her career fighting you, while you maintained that your opponent received the highest purse of her career. And considering this was only going to be her 8th professional boxing fight, that raises even more questions when people are discussing other participants reportedly receiving around $150. Like seriously, what are we even talking about here? Claressa is likely going to continue criticizing MVP Promotions and Amanda Serrano, especially with Amanda's upcoming fight, and honestly, the rhetoric could become increasingly ugly and uncomfortable to watch. But this is what critics say Claressa does, because in their view, she needs the spotlight on her 24/7. Here's the bigger issue, though. People are clowning Papadou because the timing looks calculated to them. Because if he received that tattoo in June or July, why wait until fight night to reveal it? You could have announced it weeks earlier, but instead the reveal happened on the exact day of Clarissa's fight, which critics believe was intended to pull attention away from her event and redirect it toward Pap, while also creating a public display that could be interpreted as proof that he allegedly loves his mistress. And then there's the amount of time and effort behind the tattoo, because Pap reportedly gave Clarissa's name only around 10 or 11 seconds of attention, while he previously created an entire 2 to 3 minute special centered around his wife Remy, which makes the comparison almost impossible to ignore. So yes, people are going to clown the situation, especially because Pap suddenly started publicly emphasizing how much he loves Claressa after the reported check cleared, and after claims surfaced that she earned around $500,000 from the fight, while critics also believe Claressa is upset that the public knows the disclosed figure, because I don't remember Claressa publicly denying it when Punch Drunk Boxing reported back in February that she could have made somewhere between $900,000 and roughly $1.1 to $1.2 million. I don't remember Claressa coming forward then and saying those numbers were completely false. I really don't. But now it becomes interesting because the figure being discussed isn't close to $1 million. It's reportedly around $500,000, and there's even speculation that Zeus Network could have earned more from the overall event. So thank you, Claressa, for finally addressing the money conversation after Saturday night, because now you're coming out of the bushes and explaining things only after the public started questioning the numbers, and critics believe that could challenge the image of you being this multi-millionaire athlete. And from that reported $500,000, people are naturally going to wonder, how much went to Lotto? How much went to Win Records? How much went to Selena? How much went to Johnny Blaze? And how much went toward the person who was reportedly being booed during the national anthem? You're presenting it as though there are substantial revenue streams coming from everywhere else. So either you're suggesting there is additional money being paid behind the scenes, or critics would argue that this explanation is designed to make the public believe you received more than the documented amount. And your preparation for this particular fight also looked very different from the camp for Franchon Cruz, because back then you were training at luxury facilities and presenting a much more traditional professional camp image, while this time around, much of what people saw looked more like Planet Fitness. This time, you were also extremely active online and appeared on live streams more than ever, which critics interpreted as a sign that the fight wasn't receiving the level of seriousness they expected, while others could argue that the constant online presence was simply an attempt to generate attention and keep your name circulating in the algorithm. And ultimately, the backlash continued. Then came the press tour in Atlanta, which generated even more criticism because people weren't really discussing the fight itself. Instead, the conversation kept circling back to Remy and the fact that Pap is still reportedly married to her and has not finalized a divorce. Critics argue that he refuses to walk away with nothing because, according to their interpretation, he may not be financially positioned to do so. They also question why, after allegedly benefiting from Claressa for so long, Pap still hasn't reached a point where he can completely separate himself from his marriage. And after seeing the star-studded crowd at Fat Joe's birthday celebration, where Remy Ma was reportedly among the special guests, it seems like that entire situation has people acting completely out of character and losing their minds. Seriously, at this point, somebody has to make it make sense.